So my topic is integration of SFM into RDD plus to climate change. The content is sustainable forest management and forest certification system and RDD plus and challenges and opportunities. This one is still you can see the full screen.
Yes, we can see the full screen. And then I don't know whether you moved to another slide, but we remain with the first slide now.
I'm not sure. It's not working very well. Sorry about the trouble. I will try one more time. Okay, so now can you see that the full screen, right? Changes in sustainable forest management, right?
No, none yet.
I did the screen. I did the. Yeah, I see. So can you see chapter 1.1, right?
Yes.
Okay. Changes in sustainable forest management, and at the last his slide he mentioned about sustainable forest management (SFM). This concept is originally started from a German temperate forest in 1713. So it was almost 300 years old, the concept. But nowadays we use maybe normal forest or multiple forest or multiple use forest by the United States, or recently the ecosystem management and landscape restoration. They are all similar concepts. And from the 1713 and then the 1992, remember Rio, the Environment Summit, and there was the forest principles, and then again they mention about the sustainable forest management, and then means formulating scientifically sound criteria and guidelines for SFM, and SFM means forests should be sustainably managed to meet the social, economic, and ecological. Social, economic, and ecological, these three pillars, and plus some the cultural and the spiritual human needs of present future generation. Again, here, our present generation and the future, the coming my son and grandsons generations. Okay, this one. Oops. Why it sounds strange again. It's unbelievable. Okay, I have some problems here. Okay, then next one. Then changes in sustainable forest management implementation. Can you see this one? Okay, now you see the sustainable forest management. So the global effort, as starting from 1992, mentioned about the UNFCCC and the CBD, conservation of biodiversity, and then UNCCD, all these things, right? Can you go back to 1.2? Was 1.2? Maybe I have several the slides, some mixed up the slides, so the cannot. Maybe I opened too many slides, so okay. Now you see this slide. Okay, okay, now change it. The changes in the SFM implementation, how the global effort change into sustainable forest management from the okay, the changes in sustainable forest management. See that this one starting from the again okay, again now my computer is very slow somehow, and then so it's all mixed up. But anyway, from 1992 2000, there is global effort from the FSC, the forest certification system, to the SFM, the sustainable forest method, how it changed from 1992 2000, almost for 30 years. And during that times, there was a Kyoto Protocol. In Kyoto Protocol, there was mention about the carbon credit in a sustainable forest management as part of a CDM. And then 2015 Paris Agreement, there was REDD plus mentioned that. For the SFM, we have the FSC and then PFC to describe these forest certification systems and then support this SFM. And we have some criteria and indicators, SFM criteria indicators, and Korea belong to Montreal process, but you belong to different process because of the due to different types of forest. Okay, next slide. And the changes in SFM and implementations. The challenge, what we face is not just the how to, but manage our forest and responsibly, but how to recognize and then the reward those sustainably forested. So responsible stewardship of our natural resources. So again, here, the management of forest according to the principle of sustainable development. See, the forest is related with the sustainable development. So the sustainable forest management is linked directly sustainable development. So basically, the goal for SFM is to protect forest in health conditions as well as to manage the forest in profitable ways. See, not just to protect, but we use this or manage the forest in profit ways to make money. So balance between environment and economy is a different concept with others. And next one is, so you see when we always mention about the social, environment, and economics inside this SFM. But again, when we mention environment and social economy, there is in the sustainable development, well overlapping is sustainable development. So the SFM can represent sustainable development. And the other one is SFM in forestry cycle. You see when you plant trees, and trees in young, very seedlings, young trees, but they grow, and when they mature, and they cannot stop, they can stop growing further, and then they are old and they are dying. So it means before they are dying, we have to cut and use it in industrial purpose or whatever purpose is. So this is a sustainable forestry cycle from the early year zero to a year before that the harvest age, the felling ages. So sustainable forest management is once again dynamic and evolving concept which aim to maintain and enhance the economic, social, and environmental values for the benefit of present and the future generation. So when we say the forest and tree, when sustainable managed, make a vital contribution both people and our planet, and then our livelihoods, and then providing clean and air, water, and conserving biodiversity, and responding to climate change. So see again the sustainable forest management, economics and social and environment. So in one sense is production, emphasis forest, and then the other one is nature emphasis forest. The other one is multiple use, and then residence value. The forest in urban forest is all these concepts are included in the sustainable forest management. But how about the SFM in climate change? Remember 2018 IPCC published this report, IPCC's 1.5 degree report. And then they are trying to say that the temperature rise of 2.0 or the minimum or the 1.5 is the best way. So in the here, to get this target, what the forestry role is, and it specifically mentioned that huge expectation for emission reductions in this forestry sector. Only active sink forestry, it means negative emissions. So forestry can sequester, absorb the CO2. So they emphasize the role of forest. And then you see UN, the Bonn challenge, they strongly argued that until 2030, they're going to plant 350 million hectares with ecosystem restoration. So I said ecosystem restoration or landscape restoration, this is almost the same concept. And the one example is Korea, as Son mentioned, they restored 2 million hectares of forest. The cost is estimated around US dollars, 3 billion US dollars, and plant 2 million hectares. So in the report, the IPCC's 1.5 degree report, they mentioned afforestation plus BECCS. What is BECCS? Means bioenergy with carbon capture and storage. It's the possible way and the cheapest way to reduce the CO2 level. But how about this for a forest, the planting trees? Land demand in 2100 is around 8 million or 1,008 million hectares needed. So where do we get this piece of land? Maybe converted from the pasture land or the marginal agricultural land. The marginal agricultural land, they are not have the high good productivity. So in those marginal agricultural land change into forest land. But how about cost? Is it realistically good? And how do you get this amount of a piece of land? Remember yesterday the Mr. Luis mentioned that the planting trees is always not good. And then many others argues that the keeping or maintaining the grassland or pastland is better than planting trees. So there is some kind of conflict between these two concepts. So planting trees is good way and the cheapest way to reduce the GHG greenhouse gas level, but it's not easy. But how about in Korean case? We have introduced this sustainable forest the management concept starting from 1994, But eventually, in 2001, we have the law or the Framework Act on Forest. And in here, SFM, we introduced SFM concept, and then we also produce criteria indicates for this SFM. And in Korea, as the Professor mentioned, we have the 10-year national plan. So every 10 years, we have a national forest plan, what we should do for next year. So in 1973, 1978 was focusing on the rehabilitation, and another 10 years was rehabilitation. Because those times, as the Professor mentioned, that during the World War II or on the Japanese occupation, our forest was almost disappeared. So those times, our first priority is just planting trees and making green our forest. And after that, around the third National Forest Management times, we try to, the forest is now is getting greener and greener. So now we changed the resource development. And for another 1998 to 2007, and we have the fourth National Forest Plan. And those times we categorize or identify this our forest with 6 functions. We classify our forest with these 6 functions. One is for like industrial purpose, producing the timbers and wood. Or the other one is for the watershed management forest, like that. And then now we have the 6th National Forest Plan from 2018, 2013. From this time, our forest is almost stable and green. So there's no more plantings. In yearly base, we only to plant 20,000 hectares. We only plant 20,000 hectares. So very little. And then so the forest is, the trees are growing. So we established the 20-year national forest plan instead of 10 years. And so SFM in Korean, the Forest Service, we developed 7 criteria and 28 indicators to support and to monitor this. Our forest is managed by the concept of sustainable forest management. How do we prove this forest is managed by the SFM concept? So we should have developed this criteria 1 to 7 and indicator 27. The indicator means this criteria is consistent with this SFM concept. So 28 the indicators to check this criteria is met or not, unmet. So the criteria, one is the conservation of biodiversity, and second is productive capacity, all these things. So criteria 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, and 28 indicators. So this SFM, to support this SFM, the International Society introduced the forest certification system. So here, forest certification is mechanism for forest monitoring and tracing and labeling timber and wood and pulp products and non-timber forest products. Means, oh, this tree or this wood or this pulp can be recognized as the come from the SFM trees, SFM management. So this is a certification, forest certificate systems. And the economic market-based instrument, which aims to raise awareness, public awareness, people should understand and provide incentives for the produce and consumers toward they are taking care of or responsible use of forest. So as of the forest producer or as a consumer, I should have confidence that the products are coming from the sustainable forest management areas. And also it's kind of identified by eco labels, which are on product or on packaging law, indicating in the table or desk, they put these eco labels. This means this is chairs or these papers are coming from the sustainable forest management. So and also increase, this is some green premium and certified forest products in the chain of custody. The consumers pay a little more, like 5% more, or if the table is maybe $100, then and maybe I should pay $5 more to maintain this sustainable forest management as a green premium. So the forest certification systems can be divided two groups. One is worldwide recognized groups, and one used only some special countries. The two big thing is FSC and Forest Stewardship Council, starting from 1993, and the headquarters located in Bonn, Germany. The other one is starting from 1999, called PEFSC, a program for the endorsement of forest certification schemes, starting from the European countries. This is worldwide recognized. FSC and PFSC is the big two things. But you see the America or Canada, they are big countries, so they should develop their own sustainable forest initiatives. 1995 SFI, and Canada case CSI. And in Korea, we have 2017 developed our own KFCC systems, Korea Forest Certification Council, because when we export our product, plywood or sometimes table or some floorings or some the furnitures to European market, you should show them some certification systems mark these tables or these furnitures are coming from the sustainable managed forest. So we initially contact FSC and then we get their certification, but it costs a lot. We did this as a pilot cases, but we invited the expert from the America and Japan, but cost more than $50,000. But every 5 years you have to update them, so it costs a lot. And then our force is very young, and they cannot produce any valuable goods. So there is no income for the forest owners. But you have to pay every 5 years $50,000 extra money to get or to maintain the FSC certification. So in Korea, we develop our own KFCC under the authorization of PEFC. We contact PEFC and then ask them, we want to develop our Korea own forest certification systems. Can you recognize our systems? So we contact PFC. So we have KFCC systems. Okay, so I mentioned about internationally two systems, FSC certification. Now total certified area is 210 million hectares. And then forest management or chain of custody is 1,727 cases, and almost 90 countries are involved in these FSC certification systems. The COC is about the product, about the paper or timber or table or plywood case. The forest product producers should get this COC, chain of custody, how the raw materials are flow starting from the standing timbers and then cutting, and then they change it to the the table. All these process are monitored by the FSC, the certification, the people. So chain of custody certificate is 42,000. So FSC is one of the biggest one, and the other one is FSC certification, was starting from the European countries, but it later spread to other countries. And now the 53 member countries, 47 endorsement means the PAFC endorsed Korean systems. Korean system KFCC is okay. They recognized KFCC, and when we produced the paper or furniture or plywood, we can export to the European market because our product has our Korean owns the certification logo. And the COC is almost 20,000. Again, almost the same. So how the FSC certification is going on? Starting from the standing trees, and you cut, and then you transport to the factory, and then you all this the mark logo, put all this the logo on every stage, and then ensure this is sustainably and environment friendly. And smart width it's some independent third party. FSC, they don't go to the field and then check monitor. They ask the smart wood, the third party, okay, you go there and you check and you give the logo or certification. We say you are, so the smart with representing FSC in the field. So again, I told you this one can be sustainable development, but this can be also the FSC certification, social, environmental, economic. Forest management certification works for the measure to evaluate for process of sustainable forest management in detail. So some specific forest is managed by all these the criteria and principle and indicate. So now I have show you the Forest Stewardship Council standard, a structure, how the Forest Stewardship Council standard are composed of. They are like a principle, criteria, indicator, and means of verification. Principles, they have like 10 principles, is a fundamental to maintain sustainable forestry. One is its environmental impact, and the other is criteria. Criteria is a category of conditions to assess SFM, group of standards that together measure the principle. To measure the principle is a criteria, and indicate a measure of an aspect of the criteria, provide some guidance to whether a criterion has been met. And means of verification means locally or regionally assess standards. So here, environmental impact, you said safeguard, and then you said the RTE, rare and threatened endangered species, ecosystems shall be explicitly taken into consideration during your whole operation, planting trees and harvesting all these things. And the means of verification, you have to some kind of all the document, management plan, annual operating plan, reference of the RT, rare, threatened, endangered species, and detailed protection measures. And also you have to show that field step can recognize RTE species found in the area. So the means of verification is very small, an indicator and criteria, principle. So this is the structure of the FSC standards. And then principles, in FSC case, 10 principles. So compliance with the laws and FSC principles, compliance with your own country's laws and also FSC principles, and tenure and the use rights and responsibilities are guaranteed. the forest owners' tenures and also indigenous people's use right are guaranteed as secured. And also community relations works with the rights and benefits from the forests. All this manage. You have the management plan, and do you have the plantations or monitoring? All these principles, and there is an indicators. And so hierarchy, how does it, this hierarchy? So FSC principle and criteria and Smartwood, they have their own generic standard based on this FSC principle and criteria. And they go to the field, like Korea, they check and monitor. And this forest is comply with this FSC certifications, principles and criteria. So I said, who does this assessment? Smartwood. So the Rainforest Alliance Smartwood, they do. They are independent entity that works with the forest owners to certify the sustainable practices. So FSC, the headquarters in Bonn, in Germany, and they are allowed to Smartwood Rainforest. You are representing us and go and check if the Korean forest is managed by the concept of SFM. So they said, yes, this is good enough. Then they can give this kind of the logo. So you can use the logo on your product, maybe timber or paper or furniture. You can put this logo. It means these products are sustainable. The raw materials are coming from the sustainably managed forest. And again, this is third-party verification. The third-party entity go and then check and monitor and give some labeling and then so give logos. And then the link forest product purchasing decisions with the sustainably managed forest and COC from the raw material, young trees, and after that the final products goods. So with this, the FSC is a little bit expensive, and they do not endorse the country level. So we use the PEFC. We contact the PEFC and we ask them, and how do we get this SFM systems certification for certification? So we organize Korea Forest Certification Center, and then the Korea Forest Certification Council, and then we work with it together PFC, and then we produce the Korean the logos. And how about REDD? You know the REDD very well. The reducing emissions from deforestation. One is deforestation, and second is the forest degradation in developing countries. And plus role of conservation and the sustainable management of forest. So SFM is directly included in REDD plus, and then enhancement of forest carbon stock. So why the Paris Agreement introduced REDD concept? Because around 1/5 or 17 or 50, this 20% of the greenhouse gas coming from the deforestation. So the REDD is central to global efforts to mitigate climate change, to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So you see that and then when the Paris Agreement was reached in 2015, and the Green Climate Fund, the Green Climate Fund was given an important role in the serving agreement and supporting the goal of keeping climate change well below degrees Celsius, and they support. So the GGI project later, they can be developed into the GCF fund, to get GCF fund. So I said the structures, but this initially started RED, just deforestation, but later they included the degradation. So REDD, they became REDD. And then REDD is not enough. So we starting put the plus sign. In plus means three concepts: conservation and sustainable forestment and enhancing carbon stock. So these five categories: deforestation, degradation, and conservation, and sustainable forest management. And so sustainable forest management included here. See, if business as usual, if you cut the trees and not taking care of your forest, you lose your forest, and then you release, you emit the CO2 in the forest. This is around the 17 point, around 13%, or well below the 20%. But if you introduce the RED concept, you do not destroy or maintain this forest, means this CO2 in the forest stay in the forest, not go into the sky. So the amount of CO2, this GCF or Norway, some World Bank will pay the money to you. So your effort to keep this CO2 stay in your forest. Or by IPCC, they mention is in the time framework, the REDD. So once it was a forest land, and you do some deforestation, you cut the trees, and some period of time, so non-forest land, and then you plant deforestation or forestation, new plant, like the pasture land, agriculture land, or reforestation. Once it was a forest, but the last 50 years you don't do anything, but at this time you plant trees. So this means reforestation. And the other one is conservation and sustainable forestment and enhanced carbon stocks. Maybe using some kind of forest tending or forest thinning, like that, or using the fertilizers as pest control, fire control, and then increase carbon stocks. So this one, okay. And to introduce this REDD plus, you need to have the forest reference emission level and forest referential level, carbon stock change emission rather than area change, right? So this is without REDD, you lose your forest cover. And then means with introducing with the REDD, without REDD, there is some gaps. This means credit, because you introduce REDD means you do not cut, you protect forests, means the amount of the CO2 are still stay in the forest, and then that is a credit. Or the carbon emissions, past and future, comparing the line here with REDD plus, because you do not destroy the forest, the CO2 stays still in the forest, right? And then the business as usual without REDD, if you destroy your forest, then you still emit or release all these CO2. So this distance between the gaps is reduced emissions, and they calculated, and some amount of times, like 5 years, 10 years, or you saved 100 tons, so it's $5, then we will give you $500. Who take care of these forest areas? But this concept looks simple, but it's very difficult to monitoring and the reporting and verification. And how about audit in Ethiopia case? You said in your CRGE, the agriculture and also the power energy sector and forestry, and then transport industry and the buildings. As these four pillars, four pillars of the CRGE, the forestry takes this one, big one. So you recognize forest is important and introduce and use this REDD concept for the economic development. And then the government, the REDD plus investment plan, you have also the proposals. So you are very active in REDD and plus the projects in Ethiopia case. So how do we say the SFM and REDD? In Paris Agreement, there is a two concept, mitigation and adaptation. Mitigation involves reducing the magnitude of climate change itself, emission reductions, and offsetting, and the effects of greenhouse gas emissions. So means afforestation, deforestation, and sustainable forest management or reduce deforestation. So that's mitigations. And in the forestry sector, adaptation involves effort to limit our vulnerability to climate change impacts, like erosion control in watershed area to protect the forest. So the mitigation and adaptation in forestry sector, and SFM in REDD, SFM can promote the sequestering, the fixing or saving the carbon, and then reduce greenhouse gas emissions and enhance ecological, social resilience to environmental change. So this is SFM promotion. So at the same time, it can ensure the sustained supply of low carbon forest products. So enhance, protect the forest, but at the other side, you produce the sustainable supply of low carbon forest products and services. So, and also protect the biodiversity and enough water supplies and soil protection, also provide jobs for young people and support the livelihoods of forest dependent people. People rely on their incomes and some food, energy, the forest. And also the other one is the harvest trees and other forest resources are replaced through natural regeneration or replanting, or sometimes assisted silviculture treatment, like when the professors Son mentioned about the silviculture method or natural regeneration. So this SFN concept is in REDD plus, but and also establish process, tools, mechanisms, capacity building for SFM can be applied in implementation of REDD plus. You don't need to develop any new other the criteria, indicators, things like that, because SFM has already has some the principles, criteria, indicates, means of verification. So in REDD plus systems, you can use the criteria and then indicators of this SFM. And also for the SFM case, REDD finance or capacity building and technical support can help to promote SFM in developing countries. So if you bring these REDD finance systems or capacity building programs, you can promote SFM on the other hand. So the REDD provide an opportunity to better integrate SFM into national climate change and develop strategies and policies for forest. So the REDD and SFM is linked very tightly. Also the SFM Ethiopia case, the Oromia case, see yesterday's Luis mentioned about the coffee forest. So again, the Rainforest Alliance, Smart Wood Rainforest Alliance, I show in the early slide, and Forest Coffee Certification Program in Ethiopia was already introduced. So you have already this FCCP Forest Coffee Certification Program by FSC from the Rainforest Alliance. But every 5 years you have to renew them. Means you invite the experts who come and monitor check, means you spend some amount of money. So it's not easy. So I would suggest this is a good time for you, Ethiopia, develop your own the FSC, the forest certification systems. You already have RED systems, and you have already experience. And Hawassa University can do this. MRB system is there. So develop your own Ethiopian systems, and you can save money. You can in those you can this the FSC FCS systems to many the cases projects. Then how about the challenge opportunities? Well, history. The Son introduced mention about explain the Korean long history, but if I'm wrong, please correct me. But before Christ, the 15th century, Egypt, the Ethiopia export wood to Egypt. There was a record in Egypt, but in 15th century, before Christ, 15th century, you export to Egypt. I don't know how to send it to transport it, maybe using Nile River. And again, after that, 15th century, Emperor Zara Yaakov announced the law of forestation. And then forestry planting in Managesha Suba Park 500 years ago, and juniper was planted. And later, recently, the Emperor Menelik II planted the eucalyptus, and the Emperor Haile also focused, emphasizing all the importance of forest, all this, and also the forest law in province of the Oromia and SNLP. So you have a good, long history of the forest governance, and now in the Hawassa University has some college. So you have everything. So why do the Hawassa University can be a center of East Africa? And also opportunities in forest sector. Prime Minister led the tree planting campaign, and 353 million seedlings in 12 hours. So the break tree planting world record. Planting is important, but after taking care is more important than planting trees. I'm going to ask you, please check what number of trees are surviving still. At 1 year later, among the 353 million seedlings, how many trees are surviving? 3 million or 2 million means 200 million means almost 20% or 30% of trees are dying. Means we are wasting our effort, money, and resources. We have to
I don't know whether others are listening to Dr. Park's presentation now. If
no voice, not heard.
Ray, can you hear Dr. Park's presentation? Raise your hands if so. We lost him, right? You think we lost him? Raise your hands. Yeah, I think so, right? I'm sorry that I was also getting a lot of interest during his presentation, but he was heading toward the last part of his presentation. Until he comes back to this room, I hope that will happen. Then maybe I can add some more issues related to my presentation on Article 6 yesterday. Okay, so REDD+, how this scheme was introduced under the Kyoto Protocol. Before Paris Agreement, was adopted in 2015. What I explained to you, and then Dr. Park mentioned about the credits and other possible, benefits, I would call, that you can generate out of the RED Plus project implementation. Here, there is a very important issue that you need to think about. Under the Paris Agreement, okay, Dr. Park just came back. So if you are ready, I can hand over the microphone to you again. Are you ready? We cannot hear you. You need to turn on the microphone. We cannot hear you.
Oh,
Yeah,
my microphone.
Yeah. Now it's okay. So would you want to continue? Yes.
Or just
can you?
the
Okay. I'll hand over microphone to Dr. Park again. Okay.
So the challenges. The essence of national land use plan means I would encourage the government about you should introduce the community-based forest management plan. With this management plan, like a 5-year management plan, you know what you're doing, and then you add up all these data, then you see the national, the target, and then the data. And also the technology and input are short. The Hawassa University can do it, and database, the MRB Center House do it, and weak forest extension and services, Hawassa University can provide this. So many of the challenges means the Hawassa University can provide with the support from the government and plus some international agencies. And so what to do here? You need some nursery management and aggressive but systematic watershed management plus plantation. And also build up the MRB and institutional framework. And one more thing here is yesterday Luis mentioned about that the planting trees or maintaining grassland. So this is the original ecosystem. And then restoration or rehabilitation means try to go back to original stations and then achieve the biomass, all these things. But again, you have to think about the cost activities to achieve this one. So when we planting trees, the old times, there was trees or forest there. We are not going back the original, the desert area or all this, the agricultural land. When we try to plant trees means we are going back to the old forestry areas. There was a trees there or forest there. Or the other one is again, PES system. Yesterday was Luis or today Mr. Song. This is why very important is the World Bank or some Norwegian government says only $5 for the 1 ton of CO2, but you have to calculate, monetize by the economist, replacement approach or hedonic method or contingent values, the value method or the travel cost method, TCM, and then you can calculate. This is what we Korean government do, the foresters doing. And like watershed,
I'm sorry for the interruption. We don't see your slides now. So you need to use the file sharing function again.
Oh, I did, but somehow, yes.
Okay, we don't see your slides.
Sorry to all these troubles, but can you see somehow it's
yes. Now we can see your community-based forest management plan slide. Okay, we see it.
So the 3 things here, but you can see later the video recorded one. Please see they strongly recommend the PES systems. So some economists should involved in this the PES systems, your own PES systems. And second one is the community-based the forest management plan. You have developed for community-based forest management plan, and then provide all these communities, and then you can come up the one some guideline. With one guidelines, you have some systematic the data and all those things. So the other one is okay. So all these three things. I'm very sorry about I lost many slides. Somehow was before 1 hour it was okay, but now was somehow it was very mixed. Sorry. Okay. Okay, so I should finish at this moment. It's almost 6 o'clock. Sorry about this. Why this one is cannot? Do you have any questions? I'm sorry, I should talk very slowly, but many slides and then.
Okay, Dr. Park, when we lost your connection, I was talking about the relationship between REDD+ credits and Article 6. Let me just finish in some seconds before you take
please.
some questions. So I was talking about that, REDD+ was developed under the Kyoto Protocol, and later on, now we have a Paris Agreement. If we want to share those credits to be made out of the REDD+ project, actually it should be used in order to transfer those credits to another country under Article 6. Here, very important question. REDD credits can be ITMOs that I said yesterday.
Yes.
Answer as of today is not sure. So because the definition of ITMO, so you may remember, all of you, that the definition of ITMO is still in the negotiation. And then I mentioned very carefully, it doesn't necessarily mean the 100% credit per se. It depends on, right? So forestry sector especially has been in the center of the negotiations, whether or not it can be included in the definition of ITMO in the negotiations. If, for instance, Ethiopia thinks that you have a lot of opportunities to use the outcomes of REDD+ in the context of Article 6, your government delegation needs to be very active in the negotiations to support some of the stances that, REDD+ forest sector needs to be included in terms of definition of ITMOs. Okay, that's the very important link between what Dr. Park has been talking about today and what I said yesterday in the context of definition. Okay, all right. Now that was my comments. So Dr. Park, you can take additional questions if they have. Dr. Park. I think we lost him again, right? Soon, can you finish his file sharing function? Is it possible? Hello? If you hear Dr. Park, just raise your hand. I just want to make sure. You don't hear him? You hear me? Raise your hands. Okay. All right. I'm sorry. It seems like there is some connection problems. And then he just finished his presentation. And then now you might want to have some questions to ask to him. I would suggest that we will see if we can do that in sometime in the afternoon. Okay, I'm sure that he saw all those comments and the questions raised, and then therefore we will try to have some chances to have further discussions in the afternoon. Okay, so in the meantime, it's a lunchtime, so we will have a 2-hour break, and then we will resume our workshop again at the 2 as a schedule.